This is episode 2 of my playthrough as the Empire of Austria-Hungary in Hearts of Iron 4, the Great War mod. It is about to be 1911, and things are looking good so far. I am well on the path to democracy, and we'll see how that all plays out, whether or not I can avoid the major war that I know will be brewing. One thing I want to do is, as I'm continuing to build my army, I want to go ahead and start recruiting some of these Strassen Panzerwagens, which I believe are basically like an early mobile type unit. They require armored cars to be built, so I'm going to start getting some of those into place, and I'll kind of spread those out throughout my different armies that I've got. And it's going to require me to start producing armored cars, because I'm not already. So Austro-Daimler is going to be producing those for me. And it looks like we should be able to get those into production pretty quickly and fill the orders that we need. So let's see what happens in 1911. There's a lot of things going around the world right now. Portugal has become a republic. Korea has been annexed by Japan. Mexico's in the midst of a civil war. And, of course, we have a lot that's going to be happening here in the Balkans before too long that inevitably we may get pulled into just because of the proximity and the ties that we have to that region. Let's see how things are going in the Mexican Civil War here. Looks like the Mexican opposition is holding the line pretty well here, but, of course, I can't really see what's going on, so we're just going to have to wait and see how that all kind of plays out. We'll sit here and watch it for a few minutes while things sim and we wait to see what else happens. It's a pretty quiet time in the world other than that. Kind of hard to tell. It looks like maybe Mexican opposition's pushing down this way, but up here the nation, the government of Mexico is having a little success of their own. So not quite sure how that's going to go yet, but that's really the only conflict that's going on around the world right now. Yep. That's the only thing that's causing any world tension. And as you can see, it's 1% in favor of the aggressor. So it's pretty much a stalemate at the moment. Alright, we got to make some changes to our resources here. We don't need the wood that we were importing before, so we can cancel that. And instead we need to trade for a little bit of oil. And we'll do that from Russia as well. It's just easier right now to trade with somebody that we border. Just makes it easier, more efficient. Alright, we can modify government again, though I don't think there's anything I really want to do at the moment, so I might just hang on to those points for the time being. Time for another national focus. We have instituted free speech. That gave us a boost to political power and 15% research bonus for industry that I can use next time. Student movement. That's going to gain the national spirit. Student mobilization, which grants a 5% reduction in land doctrine research time. That'll be helpful. The next step after that is going to be to look at either make concessions or we're going to have to do that before we can get to free elections. So at that point, we will change to a democratic government. So that'll be the big step that we'll take. In the meantime, I'm wondering whether or not there are some other things I should be thinking about doing. There are a lot I can do with industry and infrastructure. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I'm going to switch and kind of focus on that for a little while. And then I'll come back to the democratic government. Alright, we got some unassigned divisions here. Obviously, it makes sense this one would go into the Balkan command. That's not it. These are mine here. Okay. Alright, there we go. We now got 23 in the Balkan command. Radio has been researched. Alright. So I feel like I'm getting off to a decent start. I'm definitely putting myself in a position to be successful. But then again, what I think may not necessarily be reality. Maybe I'm deceiving myself. So we'll see. Germany's working on asserting their position in the West. Looks like I've got a pretty good relationship with them, as one would expect. I'm going to go ahead and work on improving my relations with Tsar Nicholas in Russia. Things are going to get pretty ugly for him, depending on how it all plays out, because there's going to be revolution coming to him. And of course, France is dealing with kind of an internal struggle. They had a lot of people pushing for socialism during this time. And of course, that, I think, was squashed by the onset of war. But they very easily could have gone down that path. Alright, so we've got our first land doctrine research done. So we can go ahead and continue down that tree. Eventually we want to get down through that so we can work on some better doctrines. That's going to take a long time. About 8-9 months for that one. We're about to finish trench excavation, so yay, we'll be able to build trenches. Not that we necessarily need those. Alright, so we've got a bunch of... this is all industry research, so we've got all these 15% things that we can do here. I think I'll hold off on that for now. We're way ahead on industrial research at the moment. So like I said in the first episode, we're going to get to a place where there's not going to be a lot that I can really do that I care to do. Field artillery upgrade will work, and I'll have to be spending my time doing research into things I don't really care or need, just because I'll have to wait till I get to 1916 to do a lot of those things. Alright, so our Western Command, they don't really have much to do at the moment. I'm going to assign them a garrison order, just that their job is basically to defend that region there. Improved oil drilling, that should help. I'm having to trade for some oil right now, so maybe that'll reduce the amount of oil that I need to trade for. I'd very much like to build armor, but we're still almost 2 years ahead of time on that one. Maintenance company. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and start getting some of my army units to drill. Just to build up some experience points. So we'll do some exercises with each of these units. That'll get them more experienced, as well as gain some army experience that I can use to upgrade my divisions. Into April now of 1911, not a lot happening. Here we go. The Albanians have scored an upset victory over Turkish force. Another little mistake there. Turkish forces today, after a surprise attack on a much numerically superior Ottoman force. The Albanians lured the pursuing Turks into the nearby town of Tuzi, where, joined by rebels from Montenegro, they overwhelmed the bottlenecked forces into a retreat. The Turkish authority in the Balkans has fallen further into question as a result. The Ottoman Empire is too weak. So as you recall, I mentioned that in the first episode. This is the weakest the Ottoman Empire has ever been, and they're barely hanging on, and these Balkan states recognize that, and so they kind of threw off the shackles of oppression from their more powerful neighbor and started to fight back and started to take territory and just basically assert themselves in the region. Alright, infrastructure effort. Let's go ahead and take a look at another national focus. Let's go down this way a little bit further here. We can have some building slots, some military factories. Eventually, well, we won't be able to do too much more on that until we get to 1913. So let's go ahead and take a look then at student movement. And we're going to go ahead and continue down the road to democracy, getting ever so close to it. Alright, so starting to research some things that are taking a little longer. Once mechanical computing's done, we're going to have kind of a lull in the midst of all that. Let's see how things are going with that war in Mexico. Still a complete stalemate. So that's going to last a while, I think. Yeah, not much has changed there. A couple of the territories have changed hands, but by and large, not much going on. As you can see, in Africa at this time, large swaths of territory owned by the European powers. You got Spain right here. France owns most of Western Africa, except for parts owned by the UK. You've got what was known as the Belgian Congo right here. UK down here as well. The Germans own some territory here. Portugal, France has Madagascar, and Abyssinia, which is Ethiopia today. And then the UK owns basically Egypt and Sudan. All right, so what can we do in engineering here? So encryption and decryption. We've also got some more here. Reinforcement rate, recovery rate. That's not necessarily something I'm too concerned about right now. All right, we'll go with encryption. Like I said, not a lot of good choices right now. But we're in the midst of May 1911. Things are pushing forward pretty well. Let's go ahead and assign these unassigned divisions. Where are they? Well, we're going to go right there to Western Command. I'm going to take a look at the status of production. All right, looks like we're just about caught up on, well, I thought we were caught up on infantry equipment. I guess not. So we're kind of breaking even in some of these because doing the military exercises, though they gain experience for my units and they gain me army experience, they do use supplies. So I'm kind of breaking even on some of these areas. I'm going to have to build up on my support equipment a little bit here. Looks like we can kind of drop off on what we're building for armored cars a little bit. Okay. On into June. Pretty quiet year for the world. Not a lot of events happening outside of Mexico and the Balkans right now. But don't worry, that is definitely going to change before we get too much further along here. Of course, in 1911, the United States is about a year away from a pretty major presidential election. After the Civil War, most of the South had been primarily supporting Democratic candidates up to the time of the Civil War. And so after the Civil War, when you had a lot of changes happening in Reconstruction, you have this long period where the Republican Party basically won just about every presidential election with a couple of exceptions. From the time Lincoln was elected in 1860 up until the 1912 election, there was only one Democratic president elected as a Democratic nominee, and that was Grover Cleveland, who was elected 2 different times. And what you had in 1912 then was you had a split in the Republican Party between people who supported William Howard Taft and those who supported the former president, Theodore Roosevelt. Taft was his hand-picked successor, but he didn't like the direction he took the country, and so he decided to run against him. Didn't win the nomination, so he ran as a third party, and that kind of split the vote enough to where Woodrow Wilson, who was a Southerner from Virginia, was able to win that election. All right, so Machu Picchu, the grand estate of the Incan king Pachacuti, has been found, last inhabited around 1550. It has rested nearly untouched by the world community until its rediscovery by American explorer Hiram Bingham. The Peruvian government is gleefully preparing for an influx of easily taxed tourists. It's a beautiful place. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures and video, and it's an amazing thing that they discovered, and just incredible that they were able to build that back when they did. Oh, we need a new national focus. All right, here we go. I know we've got to make concessions first, and then we can have free elections. So I'm sorry, Emperor Franz Joseph, your time on the throne is short. The Habsburgs will no longer be ruling. So we do have some occupied territories here. As you can see, we've got areas of Romania, part of Italy that we're occupying right here. We could release Czechoslovakia as a nation. I'm not really inclined to do any of that right now. But I guess we'll see what happens. Okay, we're into July of 1911. And field artillery upgrade is about to happen. So that's our first significant upgrade that we're able to make to our military forces. We're working on land doctrine already. Like I said, I'm not really inclined to do too much focus on the Navy right now. Field hospital would be a good thing to have. Just looking to make sure I don't have any unassigned units. It looks like everybody's assigned at the moment. But I know I'll be getting some more into the field here before too long. We're a little short on armored cars, it looks like, right now. To be able to get armored cars and support equipment seem to be the areas of need. Alright, so we need to put a little bit more into producing armored cars there. Alright, encryption. And now we'll do decryption. Go along with that. Alright, something's going on. Provoked by the increasing power of France over the state, Moroccan citizens have begun a rebellion against Sultan Abdelhamid, the Sultan. As French are preparing to lift the siege of the palace in Fez, the Germans have sent the SMS Panther to the port of Agadir in support of the rebels, claiming to be protecting German mercantile interests in the region, presuming that in the event of rebel failure, Morocco will pass to direct control by France. If nothing is done in this situation, war could break out in Europe. The tension is growing. So, as you can see, world tension now at 5% over that issue. The Agadir crisis. Let's kind of take a look and see. Mexican War is now going 1% in favor of the defender, so still not much changing there. There we go. It does look like the Mexican opposition is starting to gain territory, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. Alright, Germany, don't suck us all into war before I can become a democracy. Alright, we got another unassigned division as our first Strassen Panzerwagen. And we're going to assign them to the Northwest Command on the border with Germany. Alright, I've now got 23 army experience. We're starting to gain some army experience a little bit here and there. We're short on support equipment. That's what kind of the holdup right now for getting some more of these divisions into the field. So maybe we'll drop back on what we're producing with infantry equipment. Oh boy! Last night a thief has stolen the famous Mona Lisa from the Louvre. This morning Louis Béraud walked into the Salon Carré portion of the museum where the Mona Lisa had been on display for 5 years, only to find 4 iron pegs on the wall. Local guards claimed the art was being photographed, which turned out to be untrue. Currently, the museum is closed for investigation. He just walked away with it? Kind of a cool little tidbit of history. Not sure what it has to do with the grand scheme of things, but interesting nonetheless. I'm sure it was a really big deal at the time. Alright, we've made concessions. It is time. Time for the big one. Time to take that last step toward democracy. Free elections. For the first time, the men of the Danube will have a say in their government. With the old monarchy now a thing of the past, a federal republic can be proclaimed, which can listen and attend to every part of the nation-state. No longer shall we be Austrian or Hungarian or anything more or less than citizens. So this party is going to take over as the ruling party. Here we go, Franz Joseph. Say goodbye. You are in your last 70 days on the throne. Definitely should shake things up. All right, let's take a look over here at some choices. Let's go with war medicine. Now into the fall of 1911, the last few months of the Habsburg control of Austria-Hungary. It's been a relatively quiet year, and I'm certainly not going to complain about that. As long as the world's staying quiet, there's not a lot I need to worry about. It looks like tension's going back down. Oh, and the Mexican Civil War is about to be resolved, it would appear. And just like that, it sounds like it was resolved. Oh, nope. The Qing Dynasty have declared war on the Republic of China. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing this right. The Xinhai Revolution, or Heinhai Revolution, okay, was a revolution that overthrew China's last imperial dynasty and established the Republic of China. The revolution was named because it occurred in 1911, the year of the stem branch that has to do with their Chinese calendar. Okay. The revolution ended with the abdication of the last emperor on February 12, 1912, marked the end of over 2,000 years of imperial China and the beginning of China's Republican era. This had better not affect the price of tea. That's right. Let's have our priorities in order here. So, dynasty about to be overthrown in China. Dynasty about to be overthrown here in Austria-Hungary. And it looks like the opposition's about to win the Civil War in Mexico. So a relatively quiet year is suddenly one full of change. Now I've got another Strassen-Panzerwagen to assign. I wonder if this will mean a new flag. No, probably not. We're now about 40 days away from the big change. Honestly, I'm a little nervous because I don't know how this is going to affect my country, my gameplay. I'm hoping it keeps me out of a war that I can't possibly win against the UK, France, and Russia all at once. But it also might put me at odds with Germany and Russia, which would also be a pretty rough war to fight. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens and react as the time goes along. 19 days till my next discovery. Production's going along pretty nicely now. Looks like we're about to get 3 more infantry divisions into the field, 2 more mobile divisions as well. What are they missing here? Still waiting on support equipment. It's always support equipment. Alright, we've got some free civilian factories now. So yeah, let's definitely focus on military here because I need to be producing some more equipment than I have at the moment. So we'll do that for a little while. Definitely need to pour those into producing more support equipment. And where are we now? We are at 18 days and counting until free elections in Austria-Hungary. Big change. Definitely going to shake things up. Entrenching battalions is finished. So I think that's another step toward, yep, now we got to just choose mobile defense or static defense. I'm going to go with mobile defense. That's a boost to soft attack. And since I have a lot of infantry, that'll be important. Alright, 10 days to go. This has been my big goal from the start, was to transition to democracy. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes the direction of my country here. It'll also be interesting to see what happens with that, because if there are free elections, in theory, oh boy, in theory, if there's no Archduke Franz Ferdinand to be assassinated, there shouldn't be a trigger for World War II, since he's no longer an Archduke, or I would think. In the meantime, though, the Kingdom of Italy has declared war on the Ottoman Empire. That's a big deal. That's some major powers there, and I'm kind of caught right in the middle of that. It looks like now Theodor Weiswenger is now the leader of my country. And of course, we're going to have to keep a close eye on what's happening here. But we're going to leave the Central Powers. This was my goal here. The Germans were once our best bet for survival, but Austria must now go her own way. Maybe one day, if Germany's government would reflect ours, or if, perhaps, necessity forced it, we would ally again. Alas, for now, we must bid our brothers to the north goodbye and wish them well. Yes, we're going to leave the Central Powers and step out on our own. Maybe we even join a different alliance. An ultimatum was presented to the Ottoman government through Austrian intermediation. Oh, so I've been involved in this, apparently. The Ottomans replied with the proposal of transferring control of Libya without war, maintaining a formal Ottoman suzerainty. The Italians refused, and war is now declared. A war for a piece of sand. So they are going to war over Libya. Interesting. So that didn't really change world tension a whole lot. So I guess most of the world's not too concerned about that. So Chinese Civil War here is going 31% in favor of the aggressors. Mexican Civil War is kind of once again stabilized. So interesting. Now, as a democracy, I would guess it's much harder for me now to declare war if I wanted to. Of course, I can't declare war on somebody that I'm in an alliance with, but that's about to change. But I'm kind of just thinking out loud to myself whether or not there's some areas I might aggressively expand. I'm looking at you, Romania. Okay, so, and I'm thinking that if I'm not part of this major alliance, it reduces the risk that a major war breaks out if I choose to do that. So, something to think about. Got a month to go until the end of 1911 here. I do have a different flag now. Take a look at that. Red, white, and red. All right, interesting. Definitely a different flag than I had before. And that kind of messes things up because the thumbnail that I'm using for this series is the Austria-Hungarian flag. Not the one that they show in the game. That's actually like their naval ensign, but the historical flag that they had up until 1918. I guess I'll keep using it. But Republic of China took 25 states. So there's the end. Thank God the tea is safe, and that really is what matters here, that the tea is safe. So there we have Republic of China. Another major change there. So we've got a republic, and it looks like Bosnia and Herzegovina has also changed their government. Maybe not. They were always authoritarian. All right, so what's happening? World tension's up to 8% now. Mostly because of the treaty with the Republic of China. Whoa, what's happening here? South Pole reached on December 14th, 1911. Roald Amundsen and 4 others arrived at the pole 5 weeks ahead of a British party led by Robert Falcon Scott as part of the Terra Nova expedition. Amundsen and his team returned safely to their base and later learned that Scott and his 4 companions had died on their return journey. Perhaps we'll establish colonies. So, that was really a sad story. It's an interesting thing to read about if you read the journey of Robert Falcon Scott. When they were coming back from, first of all, imagine the disappointment in finding out that you were second to the South Pole after that tough journey. But on their return trip, trying to make it back to their base, they basically just hit a storm. They couldn't make it further, and one by one started to die. And Robert Falcon Scott, the men knew they were dying. They knew it was over for them. And he wrote in his journal, and it's just one of those beautiful and tragic stories to read about. Read his last journal entry where he talks about basically gives us goodbyes, and he said, "Oh, if we had lived to tell what a tale we would have had to tell about basically the strength and endurance of mankind." And I think the last thing he wrote was, "It seems a pity, but I don't think I can write more." And those are the last words that he left behind for his family and for the people of Britain. Very sad. All right. Oh, we do have a couple of research slots available now, and this is kind of how we're going to wrap up 1911 and get into 1912. All right, so we're only a year ahead on this one. I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and start focusing on things that I care about rather than just researching what's easy and quick. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. It's about the end of 1911, and as always, I very much value the input of everyone here. I'm going to be doing one episode per day. So if you want to have input into the direction I go, or if you just have some advice for me on how I should be preparing for what is to come, I very much welcome that. This is new for me. I've not played through this a whole heck of a lot, so I don't necessarily know what to expect, especially taking Austria-Hungary down this different path. So I'd appreciate any feedback that you may have, even if you just want to say hey and introduce yourself and where you're watching from. I'd appreciate that as well. But if you'd hit that thumbs up, hit subscribe, I'd very much appreciate that as well. This is the History Guy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again with another episode tomorrow.